Hi, everybody. It's the Week in the Tackle podcast, the podcast where we get together on a sort of weekly basis and tackle the things from the last week that we thought were interesting. I said week a lot there. It felt weird. I'm Tom Rennie. Alongside me is MLS legend, Apple and Sirius XM FC broadcaster, Brian Dunny Dunseth. Hey, Dunny, all right?
I'm okay, Rennie. I'm okay. I was telling you before we started recording, I have a little bit of anxiety that I'm dealing with right now because I travel a lot. You know this. We talk about it all the time. I'm traveling the United States. I'm on these early flights. I woke up this morning. I did the game last night, Seattle Sounders against Pumas in Liga MX, the Liga MX Leagues Cup. Let me try that one more time. It was Seattle Pumas.
We're not going to cut it out. We don't cut things
Cup,
out.
Heading around to 16, heading into the quarterfinals. My mind is just mush right now. And this was tells you my dream on my flight. I wake up at 3:45. I get on an airplane. I just waste first class seats because I'm upgraded to first class all the time because of traveling so much.
Because you're a celebrity. That's why.
No, it has nothing to do with celebrity. It just has to do with I think I have like 1.1 million miles in my account right now for Delta that I have to use at some point in the near future.
1.1 million miles in your account, or are you just pleased to see me?
It's neither here nor there right now because the reality is I don't know where I'm at. I've lost all grasp of timelines and where I'm at. But I'm in this weird dream, and I was like drugged in my dream, but then I was sleeping in my dream, and I can't like work myself out of it. And it was really odd, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So I'm here. I'm excited to be with you. I listened to you in the football show.
Was it a dream I was in? Was it like a
saucy
dream?
You were there. There was a celebrity that gave me something, and I kind of got drugged out. It was super odd, but then you were in it, and we were like in the southeast part of Utah, and it was like red rocks, and it was very like holistic and like crazy. And there was like Indians. I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it. I'm still working through it. Why are you putting me on the spot? I didn't even want to talk about this, Rennie.
But you clearly do, and you treat these as therapy sessions, and I may start charging for it at some point. And you woke up listening to me on the football show, which must have been very soothing for you.
I was walking through the Seattle airport. It was 4 a.m., and I whipped on the Sirius XM app, and I listened to you guys, and Charlie was name dropping right off the drop.
Yeah.
Like
he knows celebrities, didn't he? He knows some celebrities.
I heard some dings, and it finally, after working with you guys for so long, I always thought it was like the doorbell at Charlie's house when I worked with him, that someone was at the front door because I didn't understand the shtick to it. And then I realized that every time he name dropped, you could hear the like dong, but it's not like a dong. It's like someone's at the front door.
Yeah.
It's like one of those weird like doorbells. But I realized today, every time he dropped a name, it coincided with the bell. I was like, I'm an idiot.
You got it. After a decade, you got it. Eventually, we'll get there together.
I don't get to work with him that often. That's why.
Well, we get to listen to him many, many days, and we do enjoy it. And we also get to read massive think pieces about Charlie Stillitano in The Athletic, where they didn't mention my fucking name one time. Sorry, Tim. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not annoyed about it. It's fine. Anyway, sure, I work with people at The Athletic, and I know them all, but it's fine. Anyway, a few things to cover this week, including Aaron Wan-Bissaka upgrading to West Ham from Man United, which is super funny. Also, City beating United in the wasn't Champions, what was it called? Community Shield. That was funny, especially if I can remember it. I want to talk to you about that. And I have a couple of interesting heroes and villains for you this week, which I don't know. I want to see what you think about. So I'm looking forward to that. But let's start with the Community Shield. If you win it, it's a really important trophy to win and one of your double or treble or quadruple or whatever it ends up being. If you lose it, it was just a friendly and the real stuff starts next week. Man United, we keep talking about them. They're trying to build a squad. It's taken a long time. The open heart surgery, it's tough to do with a butter knife. Actually played well again. I mean, look, they were great in the FA Cup final. 2 months ago, probably their best performance of the Erik ten Hag era. In this particular match, there hasn't been a great deal of change. You know, Yoro's injured, new signings aren't there yet. I think the De Ligt and Mazraoui are training today as we record this, but of course weren't there at the weekend. What did you make to Manchester United? Let's start with them. Are you impressed by, what are we in, season 3 of Erik ten Hag now?
Yeah, but by the way, I think I sent it to you somewhere over on the socials. There was a joke about all of the new names and faces and ideas and the figureheads of Manchester United. Said, okay, we're together. What do you guys want to do? Yeah, let's go back and pick the pockets of Ajax, or at least former players that played for Erik ten Hag at Ajax during that incredible run in the Champions League. What was it, like 6 years now? Yeah, that's a good direction to start with. So I did enjoy that one. And by the way, Tim at some point is going to co-sign a prediction that I made
Oh,
that I think is going to make your hair grow back. So that's what we like to call a tease here in the business,
yeah.
Tom Rennie.
But you got to
So
deliver on that tease. When are you going to deliver on the tease? When can we get the reveal?
when you start talking about Aaron Wan-Bissaka
Are you going to
and
put this in
his
an
move,
envelope? And then at the end of the season, we'll find out who the villain was.
just we'll see. We'll see. So the team itself, listen,
All right.
the reality is the Community Shield is just one more 90-minute friendly, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't have the same cachet as it used to have. But if you're talking about the starting 11, Manchester United's starting 11 was certainly stronger in terms of experience, cost, and wealth of players on the field. When you look at some of the younger players getting an opportunity for all of the right reasons, maybe deserved, and the return of players specifically participating in the Euros and Copa America, that this was far from first choice for Pep Guardiola. That being said, it's still an extremely talented squad. We're talking about pros and cons. I think there's a lot to be not, I don't know, be excited for, but maybe there was a lot less anxiety in the performance of understanding whatever this is going to look like. We saw a couple different wrinkles in terms of the press and the shape and, how the team is, I think, evolving with maybe the new backroom staff, specifically Ruud van Nistelrooy, and these ideas of what they're trying to bring to the table. Because the reality is you can look at it as a death or you can look at it as a rebirth when you're talking about Erik ten Hag. The death is maybe he loses his tried and trusted and guys that he believed in, and including Steve McLaren and whatever that looks like. By the way, can't wait for Freaky Deaky Dutch to speak Freaky Deaky Jamaican now that he's got a new job as a Jamaican
Don't do the
national team
voice.
head coach.
Don't do the voice.
I
We
can't
can't do the
wait.
voice.
I can't wait.
I'm
I'm
only
not.
I'm only comfortable with white European accents. Okay, that's all I'm gonna do.
You're not gonna go. Okay.
Nope. Nope.
But you want to so bad.
So bad. But I'm never gonna do it.
But we'll figure out a way to play it without
It's
being
like my
sued.
dad on a cruise speaking to the locals. If that ever got filmed for Instagram, he'd probably be cancelled for life.
Oh boy. So listen, I think there was, and again, I don't. I'm trying to find this unique balance of like, oh, I was super impressed, but like more, it's like, oh, I'm not really as concerned, I guess. So somewhere in that middle, there was a pretty good performance. What we did see is when Bernardo Silva was able to kick it on and almost single-handedly inspire this moment where it's like, no, this, sorry, Tim, like I'm going to kick, I'm going to cajole, I'm going to pull dark arts, Dunsethery, margins, fine lines, gray areas, whatever you want to do. There's something in there. Pros and cons for performance. Listen, there's with the competition for spots and the evolution of what this roster is going to look like and what had to be done when you're playing Palistri at right back. Obviously, this is not ideal. You could maybe dig into the reasons why there weren't young players involved that were specific to defensive positions, why there was extremely experienced players involved that were maybe in the transitionary moments of your way out, and you don't want to injure them because at least you want to cash in on some of the money, even though there's going to be a huge loss in that deal. At the end of the day, the better team won when it was all said and done. I'm not sure how much it means. I would have been celebrating. Instead, I'm dismantling it. Quite the opposite for Man City. I don't think they care. But the reality is it's one step closer. And at the end of the day, we're getting ready for Friday night as the Premier League kicks back off because it's been a long, lonely summer without it.
Yeah. In terms of Manchester City, they won the game on penalties for what that's worth. They started with a few young players, Oscar Bob and James McAtee, one or two others, Rico Lewis. It wasn't a particularly serious game for them. But what is serious are these 115 charges.
Yeah.
And we got some news from Martin Ziegler, I think broke it first at the Times on Monday, that it seems, they'll try and delay, I'm sure, there are going to be hearings in September, which will see us through to the end of the year, which potentially means we'll know one way or the other what, if anything, Man City are guilty of in terms of those 115 charges. And I won't go through them all here, but the allegations are about paying Roberto Mancini and paying Yaya Toure and inflating money coming in from quote-unquote sponsors. It's a lot of things, but those are the kind of headline ones. Head to the Times if you want to read the 115 charges in full. Richard Masters, the chief exec of the Premier League, said something to the effect of, well, there'll be a hearing and we'll see what happens next, which I thought was an interesting non-committal way of looking at it. Not those exact words, but that's the sentiment. How important, Dunny, is it, do you think, that we're going to actually get some sort of resolution to this? What does it mean for this season, considering, everyone's talking about it being Pep Guardiola's last? I don't think those two things are coincidental. And, if they are found innocent of everything, then it's a good thing, isn't it? I mean, I think we're not looking at it enough from this angle. I think it'd be a real good thing for everybody if they could prove their innocence here, because then I think we can actually step back and go, you know what, that was actually amazing. Within the rules, amazing football, all these trophies. If not, we are going to be wading through some unbelievably Shawshank Redemption style murky waters for some time.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that you took that angle. I'm excited to see your continued evolution as a young man and as a development as a human being, as not being as malicious as I once thought you were.
But if they are guilty, we are going to fucking destroy them. Sorry, Tim.
There he is. There he is. No, listen, there's a couple things. Number one, I think there's accusations, right? There's whispers and accusations. Second step is there's charges. And third step is there's some type of in between these 115 charges, whether you're found innocent or you're found guilty. And if you are found guilty, I think the rules should apply evenly to everybody involved. But if you're found innocent, well, then you have and again, there's nuance to this conversation, because obviously financially there's unlimited funds that will, from a lawyer perspective, from a protection standpoint, is going to have the best interests of Man City. And maybe this is part of the explanation as to why it's taken so long for the accusations then to turn to charges and then charge to whatever the final decision may be. If they are found innocent on all charges, well, then certainly someone within the hierarchy of whatever we're verbalizing this is with leadership needs to be fired. Because this has been hanging over the heads of Man City for a long, long time, and has been the easiest of the reference points to deflate what the success has been on the field, not necessarily off the field, but on the field. So yeah, one step closer when it's all said and done. I think we're all kind of still dumbfounded and confused how it's taken so long. I know the easy marker for everyone involved when you're talking about Everton or you're talking about Newcastle, or we're even talking about something that we'll get to at some point in the near future, is how Chelsea is doing what Chelsea is doing. But this isn't profit and sustainability. This is breaches that are completely different. So yeah, I think for me, I've tried to stay out of it as much as I can, with trying to read as much as possible, with kind of some of the lurid details of the accusations. But now I guess we're getting closer to some type of final resolution to understand exactly what has been. I don't know what from a perspective, what they have been alluding to Man City doing something nefarious behind the scenes.
It's going to dominate your September and October, folks. So look forward to that. And just briefly, everything is a Simpsons meme, as you know. If they do get stripped of the titles and it becomes an Arsenal title win and a Man United title win and whoever else came second, I forget everybody. Liverpool, a couple of times.
Yeah.
How much do you think they'll celebrate those title wins? I tell you what, if it was my team, I'd be out there on the street, Homer Simpson style. Default. I'd celebrate them wildly. And if that happens, I hope they all do. What say you?
Yeah, I don't know.
You would. You'll get the shirt. Winners on the back. 20. Yeah. What was it? 20.
Yeah. No, I don't. We have very different perspectives, right? And I don't know if this is, you growing up and being West Ham through and through, and living in the UK and being a part of this, or me coming up from more of an American angle, watching the Premier League each and every weekend. I don't know how I would feel if that did happen. Because again, there's a unique conversation in here about the sportsmanship merit of winning on the field. Now, how you get to have those players on the field is certainly a big part of the question of how you funded and created something from scratch, even though it's not scratch, right? I'm using a broad stroke. And how you were capable of building this juggernaut with the financial sustainability behind the scenes. So yeah, I don't, from a sport, and again, maybe this is a former player thing, but from a sportsman perspective, I'm not sure how I feel about something like that. Should they be stripped of all the accolades they've earned on the field over these last couple of years?
Default. I want to get to Chelsea briefly because it's an ongoing Charlie Foxtrot that I just want to bring people up to date with and see what you think about it. Here's where we are today as we record the program on Tuesday. So, Conor Gallagher is back on a plane to London because they couldn't agree a deal with Atletico Madrid, who signed Julian Alvarez, and then there wasn't enough money to sign Conor Gallagher. That money was meant to come from the Omorodian sale from Atleti to Chelsea, but that has fallen through because it seems the player himself wasn't impressed by the Chelsea project. Part of the conversation today is that Chelsea wanted to buy half of his license, and essentially the other half would be owned by whomever else, and they would share profits on a future sale. Omorodian apparently saw this as disrespectful, so says some reporting this morning. It now seems that João Felix could be going to Chelsea to then fund the Conor Gallagher move back. It's all very, very confusing. And that is on the top of the fact that there are other players that need to be sold, including Trevor Chalobah, who, as a homegrown talent, is beloved by many of the home faithful, as so many homegrown players are. He is not going to be given a squad number and is being bombed out of the squad to be replaced by someone like Tosin, who is not as good as Trevor Chalobah. And that leads us as well to the fact that Pedro Neto signed this weekend out of nowhere to be their 7,000th winger for 50+ million pounds. And someone mentioned on social media, I've not double checked this, but it's so funny, I'm going to pretend it's true. Maybe it is, or believe it's true. That's 35 signings, apparently, Todd Boehly has made in 4 transfer windows across 2 years. 35 signings ago for Liverpool, apparently, was Roberto Firmino when they signed him from Hoffenheim. Again, it may be slightly out, but it's more or less right. Dunny, what the Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm as lost as everybody else is. First off, there's a weird parallel here between, and it's opposite sides of the teeter-totter between Chelsea and Barcelona. Chelsea and Barcelona. And I keep thinking to myself, every time I'm watching either of these clubs purchase a player, I'm thinking about the lack of loyalty that's being shown. This is pure business. And I understand as a player that some of these contracts are never going to step in front of you ever again. Similarly to what we've seen in Saudi Arabia and the amount of money that's being put in front of certain players, that is life-changing type of money. But I can't wrap my head around the conversation that leads to I understand. Again, let me dumb it down. If there's a 7 or an 8 year contract that's put in front of you, that's 200 grand a week, 150 grand a week as an 18, 19, 20-year-old player. Yeah, you sign immediately.
Sign that so fast.
But, and misled because the advisors, they're going to get their chunk of change, their pound of flesh financially and all this stuff. But if you're watching what happens, how is there anything to suggest outside of Cole Palmer that you're going to be a starting 11 player, much less get a squad number, much less being shown 2 years later, based on whatever the 5th, 6th, 7th manager that's coming in, because things haven't turned out right, that you're going to be just sat training every single day. Like I can't comprehend it. And similarly to the Barcelona conversation, going out and buying Dani Olmo and yet being unable to register him because they have to sell all of these players on the backside. So first off, whatever Boli and Igbali have done behind the scenes in the war room to expose all of these crevices and cracks, and whether that's within profits and sustainability, whether that's figuring out some way amortization over the course of contracts versus what the fee is, whether that's refinancing or selling properties that then offset some of these losses. The reality is they have exposed something that really nobody else has exposed. Like, why is it that they have been able to do all of this, but say like Fenway Sports Group is up against it and they haven't been able to do it? I'm dumbfounded. I'm clueless. There's so many other people that are way, way smarter than me that can explain what they're capable of doing, but it is wild. Now, I think it's a travesty what they're doing to guys like Trevor Chalobah and Conor Gallagher, two guys that want to be a part of this club, have come through this club. Conor Gallagher going out on loan to Crystal Palace and coming back and proving that he's good enough to be a starter. I don't know what position is his best position, but he certainly was a leader amongst a group that needed leadership and wearing the captain's armband. And then just being and by the way, an England international and unceremoniously just being pushed out the door, not because of talent, not because of personality, but because of he and Trevor Chalobah being probably the brightest of stars within the academy group that they could sell and make the most amount of money and then bring in the full amount of funds. For those not aware, if you're academy products, you play for a certain amount of years, all of that funding will immediately go back into the kitty, as opposed to selling a player that was only coming in for a short amount of time and still you're only allowed a certain amount of percentage to go back into being able to whatever profit and sustainability rules and regulations, whatever this salary budget looks like nowadays, however they're going to verbalize it going forward. So I don't know, man. It's wild. It really is wild. And for Enzo Maresca, he's compromised because no matter what, his group, his players, his system, his formation, his press, his diamond, all of that stuff, it's not dictated by the players he's had. It's dictated by what leadership is saying who he's able to use. There's going to be a list, and the list is the players he can't use. And so then you've got to formulate whatever the strengths and weaknesses are of that group and get the best out of them going forward. I don't know. There's nothing to suggest anything's going to be different from this Chelsea group from what we've seen from the previous, 3 seasons underneath this new ownership group.
Yeah, I wouldn't be convinced that Enzo Maresca is still going to be Chelsea manager come January 1st. If I was taking a bet, I'd say December 24th, the last Christmas present. Frankie Lampard comes. He finishes his Christmas dinner and takes charge of Chelsea Boxing Day onwards. It's going to go great. It's going to go great. Here he comes again. Frankie Lamps is back. Annoying, just a weird story, and we can't do too much on it now because the future will tell us. But at the moment, people like our friend Charlie Stillitano, we mentioned earlier on, he always makes the point about like these are obviously smart guys, and in finance they are obviously smart guys, and I don't doubt that even for a second. Of course they are. However, are they smart at being business people and financiers as well as running a successful football team, which is very, very different? If you're great at building rockets, you might be fucking useless at running a social media site. Sorry, Tim. And even worse at trying to, invent radio. I think it's existed for 200 years. But anyway, there's no way making that work. So we don't know.
But you tell me, Rennie, it's different, right? So for fans here in the United States that are just consuming on television and using their commercial wallets, let's say, to support the club and consume everything online and television wise and media wise that Chelsea's trying to do, versus those at Stamford Bridge that are going to walk through the turnstiles and utilize their season tickets and have their voice. I think what I've realized is there's two very different types of voices. There's the joy and the outrage of social media, and then there's the environment that's created inside of the stadium. Yeah. And that's and obviously winning cures all. But if that turns and continues to evolve in Stamford Bridge, that's where I find it a very interesting and unique situation that you have to deal with.
Just briefly on that, every Chelsea fan that I know personally thinks the owners are stupid and rubbish and have done a bad job, but you make the point perfectly. That's because they haven't been winning. If they start winning, they're going to be very, very clever. Over the next 3 years, we'll find out how compliant they have been and how clever this model has been. Listen, I want to get to one other quick story before we do winners and losers, which I have two, just wild ones for you this week. Just briefly, you've been covering Leagues Cup, which I am not. It's kind of the last question in reverse, right? I knew a bit about Leagues Cup because of last year and how the messy of it all. And I, as you know, proposed for many years to do the FA Cup similar to Leagues Cup, which is find a place in the calendar. We can all focus on it and we can enjoy it. And I sort of got the feel from last year, and again, maybe I was drawn in by the messy of it all, that people were on board. I'm now watching the highlights of these games. You've been at a few. You were working at the Sounders game last night. Yeah. it feels like there isn't the buy-in. I'm looking at a lot of empty stadiums and a lot of empty seats right now in these games. What's happening for someone like me who can watch it from afar? I don't understand it. This feels like a good idea that previously went well. So what's going on?
Well, obviously, being a broadcaster and covering Major League Soccer and Leagues Cup, people are going to take it with a grain of salt. But it's the second edition. Well, I guess third edition, but really the second edition of the way this format is playing out. And there's been some slight adjustments. There's been tweaks, and that has certainly been beneficial for Liga MX sides to have more of a singular city where they can play their games as opposed to kind of globetrotting around the United States. Last night, I believe between Seattle Sounders and Pumas, there was almost 34,000 in the stadium.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's a good number.
Yeah, and listen, it's going to be healthy. Anytime you're talking about Chivas de Guadalajara, you're talking about Monterrey, you're talking about Pumas, you're talking about Tigres, those America, they're going to draw extremely
What's the capacity,
well.
Dunny, of the stadium?
Well, this was a football stadium. This is Seattle Seahawks Stadium, so it's drastically different than, say, playing at BMO Stadium, where LAFC is going to play San Jose tonight. So, I mean, if you're selling a new ticket, which is effectively the idea, right? You're selling a new tournament. For season ticket holders, this is going to be extra buy-in. It's going to be extra cost. And there's going to be certain matchups where if you put, say, LAFC against Tigres, stadium's going to be sold out. For other games, it's going to be an education purpose where fans are going to try to figure out what they like, what they dislike. Listen, I love the tournament. I'm undeniably, I love the tournament, but I love it for different reasons than people just think. I love Liga MX's MLS matchups. I am unapologetic American that grew up in the system, that grew up in Major League Soccer. And every time we played the Mexico under 20s, we played the Mexican Olympic team. I watched Mexico-US friendlies at the Rose Bowl. I played against all of these Liga MX teams in these CONCACAF type of tournaments that have changed and evolved over the years. It was incredible for me because all of a sudden there was an educational dynamic of maturity and how you ended up playing either home or on the road, but also you created these like weird little rivalries that started to happen. And something in terms of the growth of the league here in the United States, you have a ton of Liga MX fans, right? That have grown up generation of Chivas fans or America fans or Pumas fans or whatever. And now they're in the United States. And now they have the opportunity to support their local team or whatever that local team. They could be a New England Revolution fan, but grew up as a Pumas fan. They could be an LAFC fan, but grew up as a Chivas fan. And you can have the duality of support. So then when you see kind of your family's team playing your team, all of a sudden it becomes like an interest level thing. So I like the idea of what these like rivalries are. And so for those that don't understand, the winner of the Leagues Cup earns a spot in the FIFA Club World Cup. The top three teams go automatically into CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's immediate. So by virtue of winning their respective leagues, Club America didn't enter until the round of 32. Your beloved Columbus Crew doing the same thing by virtue of winning an MLS Cup final. So again, I understand, and it depends on wherever you fall in line. I like the tournament. That's just me. I understand the idea behind it. At the end of the day, Liga MX is going to make MLS better. MLS is going to make Liga MX better. And for those that think the tournament doesn't matter, ask Tano Ortiz, the Monterrey head coach. He lost both games against Austin and Pumas, landed back in Monterrey, and was fired. So for people that say like the tournament doesn't matter, Tano Ortiz is one of the better coaches down in Liga MX. He's one of the biggest clubs at Monterrey. And because they didn't win these two games and didn't get out of the group stage, he was fired, unceremoniously canned. So yeah, again, it'll sound apologetic for some. I don't really give a flying squirrel, but the reality is I enjoy it. And it's a continued evolution of education of what the tournament looks like because it kind of falls right in between the middle of both tournaments.
I mean, I've not been involved in it anywhere near as much as you have, but I do think conceptually it's a really good idea. I do think that more to win is always a very, very good idea. As you know, I think there should be more European tournaments because there's not much to win. And so if there's a chance to win something, it's great to be involved in it. And also, the only other complaint I've had quite a lot this week, which again is odd, is that, oh, it's a fake tournament. And it's like, do you think like the Premier League happened organically from the ooze? Like, what are you talking about? They're all created. They're all fake. Everything is made up.
Let me tell you about the Conference League.
I'm glad they made that up. Am I right? It was like Cinderella going to the fairy godmother of football. Bibbidi bobbidi Moyes. Right. Let's get to heroes and villains of the last weekend. This is a little bit old, this story, but frankly, I just love it so much. I want to do it again. And he would have been a villain, but my villain is more of a villain than this. So my hero of the week is Mikel Arteta. Why, I hear you ask? Well, because of an athletic story from a few days ago now, where, let's read you some. At a dinner with his players, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta secretly hired a team of professional pickpockets. These sleight-of-hand artists were tasked with going around the tables, pinching phones and wallets from unwitting first-team squad players. At the end of the meal, Arteta stood up and asked them to empty their pockets. A number of players were missing valuable items. The idea was to teach his squad the importance of being ready, alert, and prepared at all times. Now, I have done this a few times because every time it comes up, I come up with more questions. But my basic questions, Dunny, which I'd love to get your view on as someone who's been, in many a meeting and lunch and dinner with management over the years as a player. Number one, where did you get the pickpockets from? Are they magicians from local magic schools and classes and you've managed to find them? Because a pickpocket is not like a job if it is. And you've been discovered, you're probably in prison. So has he then been to Strangeways, a prison in London, to go and get either currently in prison people or recently reformed prisoners to go back to their days of being the artful dodger to pickpocket players? That's my first set of questions. Number two, did anyone at the dinner notice that they were being robbed around the tables? And if that happened, maybe were their wives there? Did Declan Rice's wife see Declan Rice have his watch pinched and didn't say anything because she was in on it? Or did you not say anything because you didn't see it? Did some see it and some didn't? What are you talking about here? Did they just steal from the players or was it anything on the table? Did someone notice their phone was missing during the dinner? And I don't know, get someone else's phone and call the police or alert security? Is there a security issue? Did anyone think, who are these people we've never seen before floating around all the tables? It's really hard to get access to a professional footballer. But like this weirdo can come over the table and get so close, he can steal the wallet of Gabby Jesus. That doesn't make any sense. If they were dressed up as coaching staff, did they sort of come over and get introduced as new members of Mikel Arteta's team? Otherwise, it makes no sense they are there. And then when you get past all of that, Arteta stands up and says, here's the message. You need to be prepared. Well, no, I need to be prepared for 8 o'clock on a Monday or 4 o'clock on a Sunday or 3 o'clock on a Saturday when the fixture is. I don't need to be prepared at all times. For example, I'm never going to have a game at Thursday at 2, so I can have a little sleepy or maybe eat a chocolate bar or take the kids to nursery or go down the shops. There's so many possibilities here that you could
You missed the most important one.
Which one?
Why?
Why? Like, again, here's the message after that. So let's just say that they learn to be ready, alert, and prepared, but now they're not going to trust the manager. Yeah. And when a new player comes in you've not heard of, which, would have happened to you, it happens to everyone in whatever job they're doing. I don't know this geezer. It's like, oh, he's the thief. Yeah. He's a scab. He's a scab. Don't trust him. That's weeks of trying to work that out when you've stuffed him into a locker. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't. As soon as I read it, I didn't get it either. Again, I think we were all kind of like having fun at his expense when everything was being leaked ahead of the Amazon All or Nothing for the Arsenal edition. And then you watched and you saw his motivation tactics, if you indeed watched it as way I consumed it, because I consume all that stuff behind the scenes because I just missed the game. But I could see the evolution of how he was trying to get the best out of his group, both on and off the field. So as soon as I heard this, I was like, yeah, that sounds like Arteta. But at the same time, like, that's the environment which you should feel safe. Like, these guys are on high alert 100% of the time in their daily lives because of the scrutiny and the spotlight that they have to find themselves under because of the amount of money and because of the club that they're playing for. So in a moment that you're at a team dinner, man, you want to I can say what I want to say. I'm not going to get canceled. I've got my people around me. It's our group. We're safe. It's a family. And all of a sudden it's like someone nicked my watch. Like, oh, but I mean, listen, anybody will tell you that's played in any type of team at any stuff. Like, if you get up and you leave your phone on the table, that thing is gone in a heartbeat. Yeah. Like, it's under someone's butt. It's like in someone's pocket. You're like, hey man, left his phone. Go take it, put it down, turn on mute, like put on vibrate. And it's like 4 people down at that point. And someone's like, the guy who left his phone like 30 seconds, like, oh, come on, guys. Who got my phone? Give it back. It's that type of thing. So I don't understand it. I don't understand in the moment how based on what we've read, how that equates to being more aware on the field in situations like that. All of your other questions are valid. I just come down to why. What's the point in that setting?
Doesn't make sense. So he's my hero only because my villain is even more villainous. Who's your hero?
I don't have either. I've decided to combine my hero and villain.
Oh, here we go.
And unfortunately, Tim Horsey has left us. He was supposed to be here, but he's left us. So he's not a part of it because I needed a cosign on this. I needed you to know, Tom Rennie, that I've chosen my top 4 for the Giorgio 2024-2025 season.
But I won this last year, so mine carries more heft.
I just want to let you know that I've chosen West Ham for my 4th positional finisher.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
On my life, I have chosen West Ham.
Don't you want to win?
Finish 4th in my Giorgio mug prediction.
Elaborate for us. Hold on. I'm going to shut up and unmute myself. Elaborate.
Yeah.
The floor is yours, bud.
Tadibo going with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, full Krug up top, thinking about what that midfield looks like. The fact that Moisiah is gone and not in charge. I'm letting you know that I actually believe in your squad more than you believe in your squad because I saw on social media how excited you were, but what Tom Rennie always fucking does, sorry, Tim, as he undercuts his own expectations just to play it safe so he cannot be disappointed. And with all these signings, you said something to the effect of, we could be a top 4 finish, but we're going to figure out a way to verbalize why we ended up in 17th position. True or false?
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
So I was sitting there yesterday in my hotel room. I was like, you know what? I got to get this done. And there's always got to be an outlier. If you really want to win, don't choose your friends and don't choose the Americans, because that's what I've done the last 2 years. Is why I didn't win even though I did win previously. I didn't win these last 2 because, friends. So this year I was ruthless, but I had to have one outlier. So I chose West Ham to be a top 4 finisher.
Because I got to be honest with you, I said this earlier today. If that was the Tottenham squad, I'd say they should finish 4th. If that was the Arsenal squad or whatever, Newcastle, they should finish 4th. And the fact that I want them to do it means I don't think I can. But it's a pretty good team.
So, so do you agree?
I think
you want to agree. You want to agree?
I'd love to agree. But I feel like top 7 is more likely
with that team, with that coach.
But if I want back in Europe, that's what I want. That squad on that wage bill should qualify for Europe. That's what they got to do.
Let's do this. Is this potentially the best overall squad that West Ham has ever had?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Come on, just say it with me.
No, I refuse. But they might. Do you know what? It's a great squad. I would rather have.
Let's warm that cold-hearted heart. That
if you could attack,
heart.
There's points they might have at the same time. Full Krug, Paqueta, Kudus, Bowen as the front group. They're struggling, and we bring on Somerville, who's a brilliant player. Your midfield is Rodriguez, Alvarez. Could be Souček and Ward-Prowse, who are 2 players that have finished multiple times in the top 10. I think one of them probably gets old. And the defense was so crap last year. It's Max Kilman, jury's out, but they obviously rate him.
Solid.
Tadibo, incredibly well rated. Wan-Bissaka, I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And Emerson's been great for 3 years. And Areola makes amazing saves. So, yeah.
Well, I told you I was not happy about Aaron Wan-Bissaka leaving. I'm on record. I think he is a fantastic player. And he's Spider-Man for you guys. He is going to eat up that right-hand side of the bowl of disappointment. So I'm just come on over, man. Come on over. Come on.
Well, let's see if you really do it on Friday on Sirius XMFC. You're saying this to me now.
It's in.
Okay.
It's in. I had Man United number 3.
Oh, so now we've it. Right. Briefly, just I wanted to give you this one as a villain. Sorry, Tim. He's not even here.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yves Bissouma is my villain. And the reason Yves Bissouma is my villain, only because this week he filmed himself on an Instagram live doing laughing gas, or like NOS, like nitrous oxide in a balloon, and you inhale, right? Gives you a little buzz for a few seconds. Now that's something that's been going, it's been so common for a long time in England that kind of teenagers do this. It actually got outlawed. It's now illegal. A couple of years ago, it became illegal. So it's not like a bit of fun that needs to get regulated. It's officially illegal. And if you get found guilty of this and you are prosecuted as a criminal, you can get a 2-year prison sentence. Bissouma was like, oh, I apologize, severe lack of judgment, all that stuff. And, that may well be true. But Dunny, just off the back of Enzo Fernandez streaming himself doing racist chants, Yves Bissouma streaming himself doing crime. I don't know. Maybe we should actually, and this is true for everyone, stop streaming live. Imagine you're an actual broadcaster, and when you are streaming something live, it's like putting it on the telly for everybody. Yeah, and if you do that, there's like regulatory bodies and standards. And would you put this on TV? Would you like your mother to see this? Would you like your boss to see this? And this is an actual crime. I kind of want him to go to prison.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I certainly would just remind everybody that this isn't like, it's not like the old school days where the reporter asked you a question, you answered said question, and you were on the record. Anything that you're tweeting, anything that you're Instagramming, anything that you're TikToking, anything that you're putting out there publicly is an official statement from you, from yourself. It's an official statement. So, saying it's really naive isn't even the correct terminology on something like this. It's just really stupid. It's really dangerous, and obviously it's been outlawed for a reason. And the reality is that, and I've been a part of these kind of like, working with young players in the leagues and what this looks like. When you're pulling back the curtain and you're showing your personality to the world, effectively the people that are consuming everything that you're showing feel as if they know you, because you're showing these little snippets of your life. And you have no idea. It could be a 6-year-old kid. It could be a 32-year-old mother. It could be a 84-year-old grandmother. And they feel as though they know you personally based on what you are continuing to show them and it could be a supporter. It could be a hater, right? It could be an official account. It could be a troll account. So you got to be smart, man. There's really tight margins between, in this kind of, in a similar vein, the conversations about apologies post-match to the fans and, going on there and wherever it's your PR handler or it's you yourself. There's a unique conversation in there about just put the phone away, and then how open and transparent do you want to be? And somewhere in that mix, everyone finds themselves. So, really, really dumb situation. He's something completely avoidable.
I don't really want Yves Bissouma to go to prison, just for clarity. I think we should legalize all the drugs. That's Brian Dunseth. I'm Tom Rennie. Tim Horsey produced the program. The program's called Week in the Tackle. See you next week. Tim might turn up. I don't know.